If you're happy, I'm happy. Yeah, come on. Yeah, come on. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutade Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. There's one advantage, one of many advantages in having different topics every night, because if there's a sequence, some people that weren't here yesterday would need a review for today. But we don't have to do that, because different topics, except when we get to the weekend, then it's a continuation. This evening's topic is the disappearance day of Sivananda Sena. So you're going to hear something about who is Sivananda Sena. And he's one of the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as you see on the very nice painting here. And how do we know anything about these personalities? Well, we heard something yesterday. We know about these personalities in Gaura Lila by the mercy of who wrote a diary explaining all the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who was that personality? We discussed him in a prior class at length. Swarup Damodar. Some of you that weren't with us to hear about Swarup Damodar, along with Ramananda Roy, those two were constant companions for years with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they were very elevated personalities, highly learned personalities, very skilled at assisting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enter more deeply into his very profound moods of love for Krishna, in the mood of Radharani, because he's Krishna himself, in the mood of Radharani, experiencing the love that Radharani has for Krishna, although he's Krishna. So it's for starters, it's a mystery. But Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy were constant companions. And as we heard, each of the persons in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela have their spiritual counterpart in Krishna Leela. Just like Lord Chaitanya is in Gaura Leela, and his counterpart is Krishna. Lord Nityananda, his counterpart is Balaram. And everyone in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes has their spiritual counterpart in Krishna's Leela. And the devotee who wrote an authoritative book describing all of these personalities in Lord Chaitanya's Leela, who's who in Krishna Leela. He was the son of Sivananda Sena. And we're going to be speaking about Sivananda Sena and then some things about his son Kavi Karnapur. And how do we know in ISKCON world, we know by the mercy of our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, because by his mercy, these books, Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and so many other books, were made available to us. And so we can learn about these wonderful, transcendentally wonderful personalities. And this evening is Srila Sivananda Sena. Now, as I mentioned, his son, Kavi Karnapur, wrote a Who's Who book. Everyone in Lord Chaitanya's Leela, who are they in Krishna's Leela? So here's what he writes. 2 gopis, Veera Devi and Duti Devi, they're messengers. And their messenger duty was arranging meetings between Radha and Krishna. And these 2 combined to appear as my father, Sivananda Sena. So that's the son, Kavi Karnapur, writing about his father. 2 gopis, messenger gopis. There's another book, Radha Krishna Gunadishtapika, that says basically the same thing. It doesn't say 2, it just says 1. Gopi messenger Veera Devi is a very famous and much respected in Braja. She can speak very arrogantly and boldly with pride, like she's on Radharani's team. And she can speak sweet and flattering words, as Vrinda Devi does. She has a dark complexion. She wears a splendid white garments and various jewels and flower garlands. She is very dear to Jatila Devi. She resides in the village of Yavat. She is expert at making various arrangements for meeting of Radha and Krishna. So there's some names, so it's probably a good idea to share a little bit about those names. Who is Jatila? And their place of residence is Yavat. In Vrindavan's, in the pastimes of Vrindavan, Radha and Krishna are not married. In the pastimes of Vrindavan, there's an arrangement whereby Abhimanyu marries Radharani. Abhimanyu, it's described the so-called marriage of, meaning, that our acharyas say, the husband Abhimanyu never touched Radharani. There's a shadow of Radharani that he touched, but not Radharani. He it is described as the so-called husband of Radharani, because Radha and Krishna are eternally combined. So what's this other fellow? The so-called. And the so-called has a purpose. The purpose is pastimes. Because Abhimanyu had a mother who was half blind. Her name was Jatila. Her name is on the screen here. Jatila, she was called Jatila because she had a big stack of hair on the top of her head, a jat. So she was known as Jatila. And they lived in Yavat. And the positioning of Yavat is very near to Nandagram, where Krishna lived. And I can tell the whole Vraja Leela, but that's not a good idea. We want to speak about Sivananda Sena. So her name is here, Jatila. She had a daughter who was wild, and she didn't like Krishna at all. Her name is Kutila. Jatila and Kutila were like arch rivals of Radha and Krishna's meeting together. And they were trying always to interfere with Radha meeting Krishna or Krishna meeting Radha. And Vira Devi was always trying to arrange for Radha and Krishna to meet. She maintained a friendly relation with Jatila, but most of the other gopis, they kept their distance from Jatila because she was blind and wild and a bad mouth. It made for interesting pastimes. Because Radha and Krishna were regularly meeting. And the blind, almost blind, Jatila was trying to interfere always. And she'd get some indication, something. She'd go and tell her son something. Her son would get all worked up and try to stop them from meeting, and something would happen. Krishna was always very clever to... There's many nice pastimes. Many nice pastimes. So, here's a nice painting of Vira and Radharani. So here's Vira consoling Radharani. She's speaking very strongly to Radharani, boldly, because that was her personality. Don't turn from me, proud girl. Hear my words. Charming, beautiful young girl, go to meet Krishna, the lifter of Govardhan hill. Do not run from him with anger, etc. This is from a book written by Rupa Goswami, Ujjvala Nilamani. Ujjvala is a word that indicates loving pastimes, conjugal loving pastimes, Madhurya Rasa pastimes, Ujjvala. And Nila, money means jewel, and Nila money is the blackest jewel, that's Krishna, Nila money. Ujjvala, Nila money. So this book, Ujjvala Nilamani, written by Rupa Goswami, was a postgraduate study of his earlier book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. His book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, was a description of Bhakti Rasa, the rasa, the mellows of loving service. And, you know, what is bhakti and what is the rasa of bhakti, and the different flavors or mellows or tastes of that rasa of bhakti in relation to Krishna. And that's the book. It's that thick. And then to go more deeply is this Ujjvala Nilamani, very elevated literature. So Vira is mentioned there, and she's scolding Radharani. Don't get angry. What are you doing? Go meet Krishna. Hear my words. She's instructing Radharani. So Vira is the father in Gaura-lila, and the son is Kavi Karnapur. Because somebody asked the other day, who was it that asked? Somebody, because, so I'll address you. Because Kavi Karnapur wrote about who's who, you want to know who's Kavi Karnapur. So I said I didn't know, but I'll research, and I found out. And first, Kavi Karnapur had two older brothers. First older brother, Chaitanya Das. Second, Ram Das. And then the youngest of the three brothers was Kavi Karnapur. So Kavi Karnapur wrote in this book, his two older brothers were parrots, male parrots in Braja. The male parrots' names, Daksha and Vichakshana. They're celebrated personalities in the pastimes. Not so much described in Srimad Bhagavatam, but described very, very often in the writings of our Goswamis, because Radharani had her parrots. They didn't have text messages in those days. They would give a message to the parrot would fly and deliver the message. Airmail. So Krishna would speak something to his two parrots, and the two parrots would carry Krishna's message. Go find Radharani and tell her something, something, something. And he was very, very expert. Daksha was his name. He'd always get it right. And Vichakshana. So those are his two brothers, two older brothers, according to Kavi Karnapur. And then in Chaitanya Ganodesh, this is a book that it is said is written by Krishnadas Kaviraj. You know who Krishnadas Kaviraj is, right? You know who's Krishnadas Kaviraj? No. You know who is Lord Chaitanya? So he's the author of his book, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj was a Kavi. He was a poet, and he was the Kaviraj, the king of poets. And when he was almost 100 years of age, he had heard all of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes in detail again and again and again. And he was asked, please write it down. Because but what about future generations? They're not going to know. And you're such a scholarly person, you're such a good writer. Please, 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 write it down. No, I'm not qualified. And, his humility. They twisted his arm, and he said, ouch. So he wrote the book. Madan Mohan. He went before the deity of Madan Mohan and asked for Madan Mohan's blessings. And as he was standing there with his palms folded, a garland fell from Madan Mohan's neck at his feet. And it was taken by everyone. This is a sign. He's to write the book. He has Madan Mohan's blessings. So he sat down and wrote the book. So Krishnadas Kaviraj, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, is said to have been the author of this other book, Chaitanya Ganodesh. And there it describes that Kavi Karnapur, you see on the left, there's a parrot. He was also a parrot, like his two brothers were parrots, so he's also a parrot. And as a parrot, he was by name Sotika. And he was assisting in Radha Krishna's pastimes. That's what this book says. And there's a different explanation from another book by revealing Kavi Karnapur's identity as a Saki. And who knows, because there's different statements. So now let's hear a little bit about his son, because the topic is the father, but his son is a celebrity for many reasons. So he was the third son, Chaitanya Das, Ram Das, and then Kavi Karnapur. And when the wife of Sivananda Sena was pregnant, she didn't come but Sivananda Sena had a service assigned to him. He had many services assigned to him. The service was every year. Think of your geography of India. West Bengal is north of Puri. So every year the devotees from Bengal would come to Puri, Just like yesterday in India time was Rath Yatra. And you probably saw some photographs. 1.5 billion people. And many of them come from all over India. They don't just come from Orissa. And there was a very large group of Lord Chaitanya's associates that came every year from West Bengal, not just Mayapur or Navadvip, but all over the place. And so Sivananda Sena, was like a village elder. He looked after everybody. Maybe some of you have had the good fortune of being an organizer of some big festival like Janmashtami or Ram Navami or Gaur Purnima or maybe a Rath Yatra or something. You know how long it takes to organize all that? Sivananda Sena, was expert. He had a team, of course, but several hundred, 400 devotees, average, would go from Bengal, cross the tracts of land and crossing rivers and accommodations and meals and everything. Different governments, different Mohammedan governments, and you have to pay taxes and deal with all those people and have meals for people, meals for everybody at the end of the day. For like a month to travel down and then 3 months in Puri and then another month going back. Phew. So he was very capable. So one year, his wife stayed back because she was pregnant, and he had intimate association with Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya asked, "Your wife has not come. Is she pregnant?" Yes. So before the child was born, Lord Chaitanya gave the name. And the name is on the screen. The name is Paramananda. 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 Call him Paramananda. So then the next year, not only Sivananda Sena came, but his wife came. And he smiled, "What have you named the boy?" He said, "Paramananda." You'd ask me to name him. You can also call him Puri. Like Jagannath Puri. You can also call him Puri Das. So he had these two names. And in course of time, he got the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he was just a little baby, the mother placed a little baby at the feet of Lord Chaitanya. He's a sannyasi, and the child immediately grabbed his foot and took his toe and put his toe in his mouth. And everyone went, ooh and ah, and he got Lord Chaitanya's mercy even as a little baby. Puri, Lord Chaitanya often called him Puri. From that, it is understood in retrospect, this is the son of Sivananda Sena, but he became blessed and empowered. And many, many other things happened. Here's some of the other things that happened. This Puri Das, or Paramananda Das, Lord Chaitanya, and he was very young, gave him a mantra to chant. And the mantra had Krishna's name in it. So one time, little boy, 2 years old, 3 years old, whatever, Lord Chaitanya ordered him, chant Krishna's name. The boy just looked at him, remained silent. Then he said it again, chant Krishna's name. He looked at him and remained silent. Then Lord Chaitanya said, I've come to this world and have engaged thousands and hundreds of thousands of people in chanting the holy name, and this boy won't chant Krishna's name? So Sarup Damodar, you remember Sarup Damodar? We discussed his life. He understood everything. So he made a mild suggestion. He said, my understanding is, because you gave him a mantra that has Krishna's name in it, Now he won't say it in public because it's a rule. You receive a Gayatri mantra and you don't say that aloud in a public forum. It's your mantra, and that's fine, but you don't utter it aloud. It loses its effect, and it's an offense. So he wouldn't say, because he had a mantra that he was chanting and meditating upon regularly within his mind. A little bit later, he became 7 years old. He hadn't gone to school yet. His father was, by trade, a physician, a Vaidya family, by occupation and by his trade. So he wasn't well educated yet in Sanskrit. So Lord Chaitanya, he's 7 years old, and you'll see the verse. I'm just going ahead a little bit. He said, "Can you say some nice song or glorification of Krishna?" So he didn't know Sanskrit, but he composed a very beautiful verse in Sanskrit, right there on the spot, spontaneous Sanskrit verse. And everyone was, wow, it's so beautiful. And then once again, our same Swarup Damodar said, "This is so pleasing. It's pleasing to the ear of everyone. So from this day forward, he should also be called Karnapur, pleasing to the ear." And then, because he's very learned, Kavi Karnapur. So the Kavi Karnapur more or less is a title of his given name, but he just became known as Kavi Karnapur. Although he had learned, Kavi Karnapur of his given name. So here, Sivananda Sena lived in a place that's north, not too far north, but north of Navadvip. So Navadvip is where Lord Chaitanya was born and had his childhood pastimes. Ambika Kalna is another place that's just upstream from the Ganges. And then a little further north, not so far, is Kumarahata. So he was a devotee of Krishna from his young man position. He established a Gopal deity. Remember this Gopal deity because it's going to come up later this evening. This place, Kumarahata, was also the residence of Vasudeva Datta. We're going to hear something further. For those of you that are newer, you're hearing lots of names, and who are all these people? All these people are very dear devotees of Lord Chaitanya. I'll tell you, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Here's a situation. You see this young fellow bowing before Lord Chaitanya. That's Vasudeva Datta. Vasudeva Datta, and you see the verses where it's presented, he had this whole explanation in petitioning Lord Chaitanya to deliver all the souls, not just all the humans, but all the souls in the universe. And he said, you can do it. There's so much suffering in this world. People are suffering and suffering and suffering because there's suffering in this world. People are suffering and suffering and suffering because there are heaps and piles of sinful reaction. If you think they're too sinful, then I request transfer all of their sins to me. I'll stay in this material world and suffer lifetime after lifetime, but please deliver them. That was the heart of Vasudeva Datta. And Vasudeva Datta lived in the same place, same Kumarahata, as Sivananda Sena. When Lord Chaitanya heard him speak like this, he said, I am Vasudev Datta's man. He can do with me whatever he likes. Meaning, the mood that he was expressing, the mood of compassion for people who are suffering, and let us try to do something to mitigate their suffering. And you can do it because you're this personality of Godhead. And there's this, you see the verse numbers, it's toward the end of chapter 15 of Madhya Lila. A little earlier, we're in the same place. This is Lord Chaitanya visiting Kumarahata. He saw the lifestyle of Vasudev Dutt. Vasudev Dutt was married. He had children of Madhya Lila. A little earlier, we're in the same place. This is Lord, instruct him. He has to keep some savings. He can't maintain a family. He doesn't have any means to maintain his family. He's a householder. Being charitable for a householder is good. It's a great asset. It's a great fortune. But he has to have some savings. So you take care of his finances, please. It's like a little boy, Vasudev Datta. The prior picture is his house came to a place of ruins. Of course, it wasn't during his lifetime, but in Kumarahata they have this Govardhan Shila and a rock that's marking the spot where Vasudev Dutt's house was. It's a place of pilgrimage. Now I'm going to go back a little bit. In the same place as where Sivananda Sena lived and Vasudev Datta lived is the birthplace of Ishwara Puri. That's another name for those of you that are newer. Who is Ishwara Puri? Ishwara Puri lived. Ishwara of Puri, spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the personality of Godhead, but to teach by example, he accepted a spiritual master. Ishwara Puri was his spiritual master. And he was raised in the same place. Later he became a sannyasi and traveled all over. And we heard a little bit about that, his traveling all over. When we heard something about Srup Damodar. So this place, Kumarahata, later became the residence of Srivas Pandit. You know Srivas Pandit? This young man. You know the Panchatattva mantra? Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Gadadhar. What's the last one? Srivas. So that same Srivas of the Panchatattva, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so this is just a little bit about the origin of Sivananda Sena and the service that he was doing to look after the financial affairs of this very liberal Vasudev Dutt. One time, just like this painting shows, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was visiting Kumarahata. So when he came, they were honoring prasadam together. And not only there in Kumarahata, but he, wife, and 3 sons, whenever they would come to Puri, Lord Chaitanya instructed his servant, Govinda, that every day, for as long as he's in Puri, his whole family should get some of my Mahaprasadam. How'd you like to get some of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Mahaprasadam? What to speak of every day? What to speak of your whole family? It was very dear. Very dear. Very dear. So this service that he had of arranging like a village elder, looking after everybody, if anybody got the hiccups or anybody had a bump on their foot from walking on the road or whatever. He looked after everybody's everything. He was the village elder. He was the father of hundreds of devotees. And that he had that capacity and skill. So now we're going to another one of Lord Chaitanya's associates. I mean, yesterday evening, I asked the family. There was is she here? The young girl who was with that family? Where? Oh, there you are. There you are. You said, I asked you what you learned. And one of the things you learned is who are the 6 Goswamis. So we're going to speak about one of those 6 Goswamis tonight. The Raghunath Das Goswami one. So let's do the 6 again. The 2 eldest, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. They had a nephew, that is their brother's son, was Jiva Goswami. That's 6. That's 3 out of 6. And then also very young was Raghunath Das Goswami. A little bit about Raghunath Das Goswami. During the period that he lived, there was Muslim rule. There was Turkish Muslim rule in that particular geographic. Particular geographic area, and the father of Raghunath Das and his brother, their family name was Majumdar, Govardhan and Hiranya Majumdar. They were zamindars, which means they were landholders, which means the Muslim ruler, the king, like the big guy, he entrusted them with the responsibility to gather taxes on his behalf, and through the Chaduri, through the representative, pay the taxes to the Chaduri. But the Majumdar family gave the money directly to the king. They cut out the Chaduri, the tax collector guy. But they're landholders. They were of the according to the reports, one of the wealthiest families in all of India. So if you're American, it's a Rockefeller or Ford, and if you're India, it's Birla or Tata or something like that. Super wealthy, super wealthy family, and they had only one son. 2 brothers with one son. So he was due to inherit everything. So they were grooming him to be the next zamindar, be the next landholder, and become super wealthy. No interest at all. Minus. No interest at all. They got him married to a very submissive, beautiful, elegant young lady. No interest at all. He went along with it because that's what you do when you're in India. But no interest in money or women. No interest at all. And he didn't want to be in that situation. And then what made it worse for the parents is he met Lord Chaitanya. There's some details about his biography, but he wanted to be with Lord Chaitanya, and he kept running away. And his father would send some guards and capture him, bring him back, and it was a regular affair. Many things happened with this, now rather than his whole biography. But at a certain point in time, he escaped. And he escaped by the mercy of Lord Nityananda. Without all the details, because it's too long to tell his life. So when he escaped, it was at around the same time that Sivananda Sena was taking these hundreds of devotees from Bengal to Puri. So the parents sent some guards to intercept Sivananda Sena and ask Sivananda Sena, send his son back. But they searched through the hundreds, and he wasn't there. And he knew better than don't go with Sivananda Sena. He was going to go on his own because his father would try to look for him in Sivananda Sena's group. So he, Raghunath Das, made it all the way to Puri. We heard this already because when he arrived in Puri, Lord Chaitanya assigned him to Swarup Damodar. You look after him. You instruct him. You train him in everything A to Z. Because you know me and I know you and you'll take care of him, so take care of him. And when the father found out the next year that Sivananda Sena was going to Puri, they sent with Sivananda Sena a whole bunch of money that he would then be entrusted to receive so many gold coins every month to his young son who had no interest in gold coins. So his young son decided, rather than send it back to my father, I'll rather than devotees. So he purchased Raghunath Das, purchased ingredients and had prasadam prepared and offered to Lord Jagannath, and he served all the devotees and asked all the devotees to come and take prasadam. So Sivananda Sena had a role to play on behalf of Raghunath Das Goswami's father. He sent some servants to look after his son's needs and some money to look after his son's needs. It was all entrusted to Shiva, the village elder, who looked after everybody, doing everything. Then there's so he did this every year. So one year, when they were traveling, Sivananda Sena, got stuck dealing with a toll crossing. There was a boat, and to cross the river, you had to hire boats, and there's a tax collector on the opposite side. So he had to deal with a tax collector. He's crossing one territory to another person's territory. And he was late because he was dealing with the tax collector and the boat crossing. So Lord Nityananda happened to be with the group that year. And when Lord Nityananda is funny. So he became angry. I'm hungry, and your Sivananda Sena is making me fast for the night. I curse him. His 3 sons should die. And the wife of Sivananda Sena and the mother of the 3 boys was shocked because she understood Nityananda is powerful. He's a Brahmin and he's uttering this curse, our son should die. And she started crying and crying and crying. And then later, Sivananda Sena had taken care of the boat crossing and the tax collectors, and he saw his wife crying and asked why. And she said, because Nityananda has cursed our son should die. He's so powerful. All you're doing is serving him, and he's not good enough. So then he scolded his wife. Let my 3 sons die for all the inconvenience we have caused Nityananda. That was the first person he met, was his wife. Then came Nityananda. Nityananda came charging up and kicked him in the chest. It's funny. It wasn't the normal thing that somebody might kick somebody or punch somebody or something like that. It was Nityananda's being Nityananda. And Sivananda Sena was being Sivananda Sena. He was so happy he had been kicked by him. Today you have accepted me as your servant and properly punished me for my offense. Your chastising me is your causeless mercy. Who within the three worlds can understand your real character? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your mercy. The dust of your lotus feet is not attainable even by Lord Brahma. Yet your lotus feet have touched my wretched body today. My birth, my family, my activities have all become successful. Today I have achieved the fulfillment of religious principles, economic development. Feet have touched my wretched body today. My birth, development, and satisfaction of the senses, and ultimately devotional service to Lord Krishna. Hearing these gracious words of Sivananda Sena, Lord Nityananda embraced him. He rose and embraced him in love. Because it was just, he was being funny. Lord Nityananda would do things like that from time to time. However, in this big entourage of people going from Bengal down to Puri, Sivananda Sena had a nephew. And the nephew's name was Shrikant. And Shrikant was really upset by what Nityananda had done. He kicked my uncle in the chest. So he just left the party and went on his own. And when he went straight to Puri, he went right to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and paid his prostrated obeisances before Mahaprabhu. While he's still paying obeisances, Mahaprabhu scolded him. But he scolded him indirectly. He said to his servant Govinda, please instruct Shrikant when he pays full obeisances like this, he should first remove his upper garment. Now I don't know about that tradition. Prabhupada didn't teach us that one, but... And then he said, Shrikant has come on his own because of some great mental distress. He said it loud enough so Shrikant could hear, but he's instructing his servants. Don't say anything to him. Let us anything to him. Let him do as he wishes. He's upset. So be kind to him. Let him misbehave. It's okay. He's like a little boy. He's misbehaving. It's okay. And then Shrikant could understand. Although he hadn't said anything, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was omniscient. And from that point on, the whole family had become great devotees. And after now Sivananda Sena arrives in Puri. And the son was with him. This is his third son. This is Paramananda or Puridas. He placed him on the ground, and Puridas reached for his foot, took his toe in his mouth, and started sucking his toe. And then this passed, so the mercy, I mentioned this earlier, this is just a reminder. And then he wouldn't say Krishna's name when Lord Chaitanya instructed. This is after some years later, 3-4 years old, little boy. Chant Krishna's name, chant Krishna's name. Silence. So here's the verse. I mentioned this also. When he was 7 years old, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him to recite some poetry. That was pretty simple. Little boy, 7 years old, recites some poetry. So he composed a Sanskrit verse. A Sanskrit verse. And it's a very beautiful verse. Lord Sri Krishna is just like a blue... He has ointment for the eyes, a necklace of Indranila gems for the chest, and universal ornaments for the gopis, damsels of Vrindavan. Let that Lord Sri Hari Krishna be glorified. Everyone was, wow, that was really beautiful. So that this is where Swarup Damodar made his remark. This verse that he spontaneously recited in Sanskrit with no prior education is the prime object of satisfaction for the ears of the devotees. Thus, one of his names will be Karnapur. Lord Chaitanya blessed him. This is a 7-year-old boy. May your life be filled with love for Krishna, like you just exhibited to us today. So his life was filled with love for Krishna. And he wrote 16. You know, I know what I was doing with 16. I wasn't writing books about Krishna. And then here's a list of some of the books that he wrote. Not all of them, but celebrated among, not all of them. That's quite okay. Gaur Gunadishtapika, the who's who, in Gaur Leela, Krishna Leela. Ananda Vrindavan Champu. Ananda Vrindavan Champu is a particular type of literature. And he wrote one about Vrindavan and the joy of Vrindavan, Ananda Vrindavan Champu. He wrote a Dasam Skanda Tika, commentary on the 10th canto Bhagavatam. He loved Krishna. And so forth and so on. These different books. At the bottom, Chaitanya Sahasranam Stotra. So it's prayers of like Vishnu. There's 1,000 names of Vishnu. 1,000 names, Sahasranam Stotra of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And just another very nice pastime that's described at length. Here's the picture that describes the conclusion. In the course of travel, all the way from Bengal to go down to Puri, he took care of everyone's meals. He made sure everyone got their meal every day. One particular journey, there was a street dog. Some of you have been in India, and you know what street dogs are. So a street dog started tagging along. He was hungry. So Sivananda Sena took care of him like a son. In one of the boat crossings, crossing a river, the boatman refused to let a dog into his boat. He paid extra, like, some koti, some the local currency, and he wanted to make sure the dog got his boat ride, which could be taken care of like everybody else. One find and Sivananda Sena would eat last after he saw that everyone had had their meal. And one evening, he couldn't find the dog. So he sent 10 men in the local village where they were, see if he can find the dog and make sure he gets his meal. They couldn't find the dog. So Sivananda Sena was so upset, such a loving person, that he fasted. He couldn't eat. He couldn't sleep. He was in a lot of anxiety about the dog. And when they got to Puri, there's the scene. You see this dog on the lower right. There he is, right in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doing? He was having coconut, and there's the pulp inside the coconut, and he'd hold the pulp up in the air like this and order the dog, chant Krishna's name. Krishna! And he threw him some coconut pulp. That's what's going on. He ate the coconut pulp. And he did it a few times. Sivananda Sena saw the dog getting this mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as you see in the painting, he pays his obeisance. Sivananda Sena saw the dog pays his obeisances to the dog. And it is said in this whole Leela that shortly after that, the dog disappeared and everyone understood he went back to Godhead, getting the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And before that, the mercy of Sivananda Sena. And that's the kind of person that Sivananda Sena was. Now there's another nice description. You have to listen carefully. This is from his biography of Sivananda Sena. Lord Chaitanya bestowed his causeless mercy upon his devotees in three ways. His own direct appearance, like he came amongst them and he mixed with them, sakshat. Then the other two require some explanation. His prowess within someone he empowers. Avesha. Avesha means being empowered, like many of you have heard Shakti Avesha Avatar. Avesha means being empowered. Empowered with what? Some Shakti. So in this Shakti Avesh, or the Avesh feature, Lord Chaitanya personally entered into the body of some devotees. And we're going to hear some examples, in case you wanted to hear some examples. And then another is Avir Bhava. He didn't show his form, but he manifested himself in different ways at different times, on occasion. So those are three. Personally, by empowerment, and sometimes he would manifest briefly and then disappear. And Sivananda Sena was directly blessed to experience all three. So the first one we've understood already. He came, and Lord Chaitanya became before Lord Chaitanya and all the devotees. Here's another example, this Avesha example. There was a devotee, a brahmachari, devotee of Lord Chaitanya named Nakula Brahmachari. And it was said about Nakula Brahmachari that Lord Chaitanya personally had entered into his body, or the potency, became stunned, perspired, danced in love of God, and made sounds like those of thunder. His body shone with the same luster as that of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he showed the same absorption and ecstatic love of Godhead. Upon seeing him, people were overwhelmed with love of Godhead. So Sivananda heard about this brahmachari, Nakula, and he was doubtful. If Nakula Brahmachari personally calls me and knows my worshipable mantra, which you don't say to someone because it's private, then I shall understand that he is inspired by the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thinking in this way, he stayed some distance apart. He was going to visit where he was, but he stopped in a nearby town or village and stood in that nearby town or village to see if Nakula Brahmachari is going to recognize him. So Nakula called and asked him for him to come. Although he didn't see him, please ask him to come. And when he came before Nakula Brahmachari said, "See, you're chanting the Gaur Gopal mantra." Remember, he established a Gaur Gopal deity. You're chanting the Gaur Gopal mantra, composed of 4 syllables. Now please give up your doubts. The all-knowingness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been transferred to Nakula Brahmachari. That's called Avesha. And then there's this other category, third category, Avirbhava. That a manifestation of the Lord appears even though he's not present. He's in Puri, but a manifestation of Lord Chaitanya appeared. Here, this was exhibited to Sivananda Sena 2 different times. There's another brahmachari, his name was Pradumna Brahmachari. And later, Pradumna Brahmachari was given the name Nrsingananda. See, here's what happened. Nrsingananda Brahmachari, or Pradumna Brahmachari, was engaged in meditation. Within his meditation, he cooked for 3 deities, for Lord Nrsingadev, for Lord Jagannath, and Lord Chaitanya. You see those 3 deities up on the altar up there. And what happened was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and ate all 3 offerings. And so the meditator Brahmachari, Pradumna Brahmachari, told Sivananda Sena, Lord Chaitanya came and ate the offering for all 3 deities. I need enough ingredients so I can prepare ingredients for the other 2. This was all in his meditation. Now he's saying to Sivananda Sena, I need ingredients so I can do more cooking, because Lord Chaitanya came and ate everything. Sivananda Sena was, what? But he respected the brahmachari and made the ingredients, provided the ingredients, and he prepared. Next year, when Sivananda Sena came to Puri, Jagannath Puri, with that same procedure of bringing all the devotees from Bengal, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, oh, that meal that was offered by Nrsingananda was so good. I never tasted anything quite like that before. Although it was just under his meditation. Here's another time. Same brahmachari. He was engaged in meditation. In his meditation, he was constructing a road, a very, very, you see, very elegant road lined with flowers on either side and very smooth. A nice road from Kulia to Vrindavan. Hearing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to make a journey to Vrindavan. So his place was Kulia. But all of a sudden, his meditation broke. And he said to everybody, he's not going to go to Vrindavan just now. He's going to go to another place. And to everyone's surprise, particularly Sivananda Sena, that's exactly what happened. Lord Chaitanya had a change of plan. Kanai Natashala is the place where the first 2 of the Goswamis, Rupa and Sanatan, they were living at Kanai Natashala. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to Vrindavan from Puri. It's on the east coast. Vrindavan is north central. He went straight to Kanai Natashala, which is not how you get to Vrindavan. But he didn't go to Vrindavan. He went to Kanai Natashala. And his meditation, Pradumna understood that. He's not going there just now. And he announced it to everybody. It was like, what? And then it became true. Another Avir Bhava example is Mother Sachi. Mother Sachi was a widow. Her husband, Jagannath Mishra, had died. That's Nimai Pandit's father, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father, died. And she had 2 sons, both of whom took sannyas. So she's living alone. Widow, living alone. So every day she would cook for Lord Chaitanya, for her son. And many times when she was preparing and making the offering, Lord Chaitanya would come and eat the offering. And she was astonished. She looked at the plate and the plate was empty. What happened? As you see, she's perplexed. So that's a manifestation of Nimai Pandit, or now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he was somewhere else, but he made a manifestation in a second place at the same time. We're almost done. We heard this little story yesterday. You remember this particular painting? This is Jagatananda, one of Lord Chaitanya's dear associates, who had, in his relationship with Krishna, Satyabhama would sometimes be very feisty and argumentative with Krishna. She was the left-wing queen. Rukmini was the very peaceful, passive, always say yes queen. And Satyabhama was the feisty one. So Jagatananda was that kind of personality. So he didn't like that his Lord and Master would undergo austerities. He's the Lord of the universe. So he would always try to make some nice arrangements for his comfort. We heard about it yesterday, 2 days ago. So one of the things that he did was Jagatananda he went to the home of Sivananda Sena in Kumarahata, and there with his own hand, he made sandalwood oil, pressed. I don't know how you make sandalwood oil, but he knew how to do it. It takes a long time to take a piece of wood and get oil from it. How do you do that? But he knew how to do it. And he made a whole big vat, like, a clay pot filled with sandalwood oil, and wanting to give it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when he gave it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he stood there and wanted to make sure he was going to rub some on his head. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "What's this? I'm a sannyasi. You want me to have fragrant oils on my body? You can take that oil and give it to the deity, and they can put it in the lamp and burn the nice oil, fragrant, suitable for the deity." And so Jagatananda threw a fit. He took the oil. "What oil are you talking about?" Smashed it on the ground and stormed out. Lovers' quarrel. Jagatananda. And this is another painting of the same. You see the smashed pot down below. And this is our last slide. One of the eldest of Sivananda Sena's sons, so these three, Chaitanya Das, Ram Das, and Kavi Karnapur. So one time, when the whole family, along with everybody else coming from Bengal, came to Puri, Sivananda Sena made an arrangement inviting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for lunch. And it was a big Jagannath Prasad feast. And Lord Chaitanya was overindulged. So he wasn't feeling well. He ate too much. The very next day, Chaitanya Das had invited him for lunch. There was like a whole procedure of, who's going to cook for Lord Chaitanya today. So Chaitanya Das got day number 2. And he knew, Lord Chaitanya didn't complain, but he just knew his mind. And so he made some very light and bitter and help his digestive system kind of lunch. And when Lord Chaitanya saw the lunch, he said, "How did you know my mind? You're like your father. You're a very intimate associate. And I accept whatever you offer to me because you're offering it with such love." So this is a little bit of a description on Sivananda Sena's disappearance day, this great devotee and his family and his close interaction and the kind of trust that was given to him by Lord Chaitanya, along with many other exalted devotees. Now, those of you that are newer, you're not going to remember all these names. It's okay. Understand the rasa, and you're not going to forget. As you go further, because we're going to do this 2 more of these. The associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu each had a very unique and a very loving. The associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu each had a different very loving relationship. And how they engaged was different. But in all cases, it was loving relationship filled with different tastes of and qualities and kinds of love and loving exchange. And he was very expert at exchanging loving dealings. And therefore, people loved him. Besides, he's the supreme person. But the Aishvarya feature was not so present. The Madhurya feature was very prominent. And they all loved him. And they're ready to do anything, including have arguments with him, like Jagatananda, on a loving exchange basis. There went a little something about, this is St. Louis. And St. Louis isn't around the corner from Gitanagari. But I'll tell you something about our Gitanagari retreat. And over the weekend, I'm going to be making some presentation on something from 10th Canto Bhagavatam, Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And some of what I'll be speaking about was spoken already in Gitanagari during our Memorial Day weekend. Maybe some person from St. Louis went to Orlando for the Memorial Day weekend, the Sadhu Sangha retreat. While there are St. Louis also in the farm community, Gitanagari, very nice place. And in 2 years' time, the devotee is going to be the guest speaker. This time it was a PhD graduate from Harvard University named Garuda Prabhu. And he spoke about Krishna's pastimes, as did I. In 2 years, there's going to be a devotee named Yogeshwara. This is an announcement. And he's going to be publishing a book just prior, or it's going to be printed, available from the printer just prior to the 2 years from now, Gitanagari event. And the title of the book is Mysteries of Gaura Leela. And I don't know if he's going to be giving all these names like I just did, but he'll certainly be speaking about the mood of love, the mysteries of the loving dealings of Lord Chaitanya with his associates. He's a very good writer, and he's a very charming person, a very refined, elegant personality. So if you like Gaura Leela, come on up for Gitanagari Retreat 2027. Okay. We have 2 more disappearance days coming. I mean, the actual day was Wednesday, Thursday, and it's already Friday. So these are disappearance days that have already disappeared on the actual appearance. But to honor great personalities, it's nice. It's purifying. It's enlivening. These are disappearance days that have already disappeared on the actual appearance. Them makes us dear to the Supreme Person also. Let's see if there's some discussion. Our magic microphone man, he's ready to give you the microphone if you raise your hand.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. It was a very, very interesting class, especially when you put in that mood, when you explained those pastimes. It was beautiful. One thing I was contemplating on the topic is like from the very many pastimes that we have heard earlier, the mood of Nityananda was like very mellow down, right? Like even in Jagai and Madai pastimes, like we see the mood of Nityananda totally different from what you explained today. So is that because he wanted to play a different rasa or a pastime to explain better? I don't know.
Well, he would. Here's a third. It's not there's two, then there's three, and there's four, and there's five, and there's he's known as funny. So here's an example. Our young girl yesterday heard about the six Goswamis. And one of those six Goswamis is Raghunath Das. He tried and he tried and he tried and he tried, and every time his father captured him and brought him back. He understood, I didn't get the mercy of Lord Nityananda about the six Goswamis. And one of those six Goswamis is Raghunath Das. He tried and he tried and he tried and he tried, and every time his Raghunath Das went there, and he was shy, so he was kind of mixing in with the crowd. There was thousands of people, so he didn't make himself visible because he was shy. And Lord Nityananda said, "Who is that criminal? He's hiding from me. Bring him here at once. I'm going to punish you." And he put his feet on his head, which is mercy. But he was like, speaking in a different way. And yeah, I've got a penalty for you for your hiding from me. You're going to have to feed everybody. Sponsor the Sunday feast. So you make an arrangement to see all these thousands of people. You find a way to feed all them all. So yogurt and rice, flat rice, and sweet yogurt and flat rice, two kinds, in clay pots, and they were distributed to everybody. So then Lord Chaitanya called them, and when the kirtan started, Lord Chaitanya personally came. This is this Avirbhav example. Lord Chaitanya personally came and ate what was prepared. And he's eating and putting some of the food in the mouth of Nityananda, and Nityananda is putting some of the food in the mouth of Lord Chaitanya. And then the kirtan started, and they're dancing and dancing. And when it was all over, it took some time for it to get all over, he then called Raghunath Das to come again. And Raghunath Das said, I came here for one reason. I want the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. He said, you got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. He came here to see you. Go back home, and very soon you'll be delivered. So, funny, his behavior was like this, but he was meaning that. And that's just how he was. So the mercy that he showed to Jagai Madhai is what you're pointing to, but his behavior was so erratic. There were two, Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, and Lord Nityananda was so wild. Haridas said, "I don't want to be with you anymore. You're too unpredictable. You do all the jump in the water and want to save all the fish in the water. So, I'm not going with you anymore. You just go by yourself." It's Anavaduta. He's like a madman, unpredictable, and very funny. Sometimes and sometimes and sometimes and sometimes. Very colorful personality, but fixed on the service of Lord Chaitanya. Enigmatic, not easy to understand kind of personality, except for one thing: the mercy receive and give the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. everybody, in very unusual and funny ways.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else?
Can
You
I
have
ask
something
you
else?
One more question.
One more, okay.
This is more like a practical approach. I'm asking this question. So you explained the mood of Shrikant, right? Like when he was super upset when his uncle was chastised in front of everyone, and then he was kicked, and so he left the party, and then he comes to see Chaitanya
Yes.
Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
And then you explained like how his whole family later become like devotees. You mentioned that reference, right, Maharaj?
But that, yes. But that
So-
was already in place. Wasn't as a result of Lord Nityananda's behavior. It was that is the kind of relationship that Lord Chaitanya had with Sivananda Sena and his family. You know, from when they had just first one child, then the second child, and the third child is on the way, and he's naming the child. He had this family affection for Sivananda Sena because he's such an elevated devotee of Krishna.
The question I was going to ask Maharaj is like, so we see like many devotees, they step in temple, like they come in association, they get to see the blessings of Krishna Balram, and they take the mercy, but then it doesn't impact them, us, like how Mahaprabhu's mercy was. And in this age of Kali, like where things are so difficult.
Okay. Now you're asking about St. Louis ISKCON.
I mean, in general.
People today, people in our modern time. So, what's the difference? That's your question? Why this and that? Why such a contrast?
I mean, in this age of Kali, I mean, it is impossible, but then the mercy also brings transformation, right? I mean, it doesn't happen immediately, but we don't see that people, the same people who came and then they just decide not to come, or that connection is not there.
Well, there's a whole range of things that happens. Some people fall from the sky and then they're Haribol. It happens. It happens. And some people it takes years and years. And then some people come quickly and then they disappear. And you know, all kinds of, there's the whole spectrum. You know who Badahari is? The Kirtanir Badahari. Those of you that don't know, please get, when you hear the name Badahari and he's going to be around, go. Because he's an amazing kirtan performer. I mean, I say two things about him. He's like a human glubjaman. You just bump into him, you get juice. And when he starts kirtan, his body starts to glow. His face glows, his arms glow, his whole body is glowing. He just loves kirtan. And he has a certain, style that he starts very meditative and takes a long time, but the meditative starts to build, and it starts to build, and everyone's up and dancing. And it's just Badahari Kirtan. And we had many kinds of services together for some period of time. Then my life changed, his life changed. We haven't done anything together in a long time. But one time his wife was there. And she said, here's how my husband became a devotee. He went to a music school. He graduated from a music school. He was, right from school, he was taken on a tour, a world tour, and when he came back to Los Angeles. Someone gave him a Bhagavad Gita in the airport. And the next day he moved into the temple. Some people just, he was ready. And some people aren't ready. And many other, factors involved in someone moves slowly, someone moves quickly, and someone goes forward and then someone slides backwards. And There's many factors. There's ways to analyze why, but some people, there's variegatedness. It's to be expected. Not just the age of Kali, but anybody at any time.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have two questions, Maharaj.
Okay, you have tough questions.
So first one about Sivananda Sena's dog.
Yeah.
So
It wasn't his dog, it was a street dog.
yeah, his dog, the dog.
Yeah.
So how to understand that he has that affection and attachment towards a dog?
He's compassionate. He didn't discriminate between this and that. He's just compassionate. Some people are like that. He was like that. He took care of everybody, including a stray street dog, a homeless, skinny guy. He wanted to make sure he was taken care of. Compassion.
His compassion. Thank you, Maharaj. Other question about Narottam Das Thakur. He had attained the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yes.
Is it considered Shakti Avesha?
One could place an argument. I've not read anything from our Acharya that says yes. I've not read anything from our Acharya that says no. So one can make an argument that says yes. But generally speaking, unless we hear from Guru Sadhu Shastra, we don't make bold declarations like that. He certainly received mercy. So in generic sense, you are also a receiver of mercy. But he got a lot. So one could make that argument.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. My question is also similar to the three ways Mahaprabhu bestow the mercy.
Yeah.
mercy. Avesha, can we consider Goswami's an example of
Yes.
Avesha?
Yes.
Because they were empowered.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed when you heard this pastime, Lord Chaitanya was singing a love song during Rath Yatra and singing the phrase again and again. No one knew what the heck was going on except Srupa Damodar. And Rupa Goswami knew. So when Lord Chaitanya asked, how did he know? Srupa Damodar said, it must be that you've given him your mercy. And Lord Chaitanya said, yes, I saw him as a qualified person, and I gave him my mercy. And then he described how, what he gave. I made him empowered to be able to understand the whole science of bhakti. I described it for months, the details of the science of bhakti, and empowered him to write the books on the science of bhakti. Yes, I gave him my mercy.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. One more question.
Yeah.
So the pastimes goes on eternally, right, Guru Maharaj? Mahaprabhu's pastime, Krishna's pastimes.
Manifest and unmanifest. So the unmanifest form eternally, but not manifest.
So the spiritual identity of these personalities, like for example, the three sons of Sivananda Sena was parrots. There are parrots in Krishna Lila. So that's their eternal spiritual identity.
What's the problem?
No, they're also...
If a parrot can become a human...
So they play two roles in Krishna Lila and
they're unlimited. No, don't put a box on something that's unlimited. Before coming to St. Louis, I had completed Lord Brahma's prayers to Krishna, chapter 14. And there's a whole section of his prayers describing the unlimitedness of the unlimited. Unlimited expansions, unlimited qualities, unlimited potencies. He's unlimited. So the unlimited can also empower others to expand unlimitedly. So don't put a box. Don't circumscribe, and if it's this, it can't be that. And it's not. It's a different set of rules. And if the material rule is, if it's either 1 or a 0, and a little binary processor can handle it. It's either this or that. It's a computer. It represents the mind, what the mind does. It's a 1 or a 0. And that's what the mind is. It's a complex computer. But the spiritual realm doesn't work like that. It's a different set of rules. It's not limited. So how do you understand something unlimited with something that's limited? The binary processor can't understand something that's unlimited. So it's fundamental to understand. We went through this, in Naperville, and I'm doing it, a little synopsis from your question. To understand God, yes, you use the nice Western term, one must accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must accept He has potencies that are beyond my little tiny brain, my little tiny mind, to understand. He must. If he's within the confines of my mind, then it's something material. It's something the spiritual is outside of that. So it's inconceivable. Achintya. Achintya Shakti. And inconceivable means inconceivable. It's beyond the mind to conceive. You can't put it in a box. So, well, how do we know if it's inconceivable? If it can just be anything. It can't not just anything. Therefore we need Shastra that can from a source that's infallible can disclose. Krishna is that infallible source. He can speak Bhagavad Gita, and it's not to be questioned. There's no need to question it. To understand it as something else. It requires bhakti. It doesn't require intellect or a binary processor. It doesn't work that way. It's a different set of rules. So rules that govern the spiritual are not, there's rules. It's whatever Krishna wants. That's the rule. And there's no limit to what Krishna can want, and no limit to the potencies with which he can do what he wants. Including being controlled by his devotees. He's not controlled. It's love. And that's so that our binary processor says, wait a minute. It's another set of rules. The rule of love. The lover and the beloved. And there's no one keeping score. That's love.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
You have something online.
I have a question from Anusha Mataji from Naperville. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. We hear the glories of Srimati Radharani through your classes and nowhere else in Srimad Bhagavatam. As I heard from you from previous lectures, to obtain the Krishna Prema, we need the mercy of Radharani. As a Sataka, with chanting the holy name, hearing and reading the Srimad Bhagavatam and no knowledge of the glory of Radharani, how to begin the worship of Srimati Radharani, or at least how and when to meditate her names?
Well, you say it every time you say the Hare Krishna mantra. More times than you say any other name. Hara in the vocative becomes Hare. And Hara is a name of Radha. How many names does Radha have? Sahasranam. Next.
That's
That's it?
it.
Okay. In the back there, do you have something? Anyone back there? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. As a follow-up on the Mataji's question, I think I'm also thinking in the binary process. I just want a correction if it is not, no, the thinking is incorrect. In Krishna Leela, we see the three sons of Sivananda Sena, and Sivananda Sena himself is a parrot, and they are serving Krishna by being a messenger, in the exchange of communication between Radha and Krishna.
Those
So
are his two brothers. Those are his two brothers, not his father. But go ahead.
In Ramayana, we hear Lord Ram will not forget even a smallest, service offered. So, is it okay to think that because they did this service to Krishna and Srimati Radharani, they were given such a association in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela?
Well, it's not a business exchange. I paid my price, so now I get the goods. It's not. It's loving. It's not like that. In one sense, yes, but in another sense, no. It's not because they did this, they got that. Okay, we got one over here before you get your one more.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for the nice details we heard today about Sivananda Sena. I wanted to ask with regard to Mercy Maharaj.
Mercy.
Yes. So I was just contemplating recently on, how much all the devotees do for the services and programs and stuff. So I'm just wondering, how can one reciprocate to that? How, besides chanting for them, how is it that one can show their
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Well, there's words and there's actions. The words you can say, while I was honoring Sivananda Sena and what he was doing, simultaneously it's honoring the devotees that organize Janmashtami and Gaur Purnima and Rath Yatras and temple activities and so forth and so on. It's indirectly it's honoring them, well, it's especially honoring Sivananda Sena. So, but by words one can express. It's a cultured person will express. They don't have to just be a flatterer, but just express gratitude. And when it's done from the heart, then that's the kind of gratitude that's wanted. A genuine expression of gratitude. And then actions, roll up your sleeves and help. And devotees that have that service-mindedness, everyone sees it, and they're feeling something that the happiness of just being the menial servant of. And the menial servant can be in this position, that position, or that position. The menial service is a mood, not what you do. It's the mood. In the menial servant mood. So, one who gets some recognition It's like Prahlad. There's many examples, but like Prahlad, he didn't want, and Nrsingadev wanted. I don't want. My father was. He had such opulence and such power, and he just raised his eyebrows, and the demigods would tremble, and in a flash, he's gone. No thanks. I don't want that. And then Lord Nrsingadev said, I want it. So you take his throne, and you rule the demons. But don't be attached to the opulence. And how you can be protected from that opulence that your father had, and now it's yours, is hearing my glories and speaking my glories. And you'll be protected from all of that. So that your question is how you can express your gratitude. Be the humble servant. If it's washing the pots or cleaning the floor, or from Krishna's, Prabhupada said this so many times. The pujari that's dressing the deity and the person that's washing the floor, from Krishna's perspective, they're the same. The service is different. The level of requirement to be able to be on the altar and touching the deity, etc., it may be different. But to one's capacity, you do whatever is required. And it doesn't have to be like throw away all your other responsibilities in life and just do that. But part of what you do can be from your heart, that expression of gratitude, however simple it may be. However simple it may be, from your heart, then that's gratitude. And you'll feel it, and the person who is the object of service will feel it. Even the simplest little thing. And then something that's grandiose, if it's not with feeling, it's not the same. It's bhakti. With bhakti, you express through words and your actions your sense of gratitude. And then our life is a life of expression of gratitude. That's a whole topic. Yes, you're next. You're last.
I have a few more questions.
A few.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is from Shari. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Keep it short. She has some really long ones.
Yeah. Srikant, the nephew, didn't like the action of Lord Nityananda and left. Does he make a mental offense against Lord Nityananda by thinking like that in the mind?
Yes.
And another question from says Krishna.
But he got purified. Well, go ahead.
Another question is that from Krishna. It says Krishna devotee. But may I please know the reason why Kutila didn't like Krishna? Is there any pastime on this?
There's tons of pastimes. You know how she behaved. She behaved as she behaved because it was for the pleasure of Krishna. She wasn't thinking, I'm going to be inimical to Krishna because Krishna likes it, if I'm inimical. She just had a role to play that nourished the sweetness of pastimes. Radha and Krishna are going to meet, and there's something standing in the way. And her name is Kutila. And it increased the anticipation of meeting and the rasa of meeting when there's an obstacle. She was playing her part. Not like an actress on a stage, but in Leela, in the force moving that seems to be an impediment for Radha and Krishna meeting. But nothing can stop Radha and Krishna meeting.
Yeah.
But she had that role.
Oh, thank you, Maharaj. I have another question from Amara Devidasi Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Do Lord's associates remember their and Lord's identities, or just like Krishna Leela, Yogamaya acts on them to enhance Lord's rasa?
It's not like they forget, but yes, Yogamaya acts on them to exchange loving dealings with Krishna. According to Krishna's plan, those who are pure devotees engage according to Krishna's plan, and they're not thinking, I'm a zombie. I don't have any free will. I just move on the chessboard the way Krishna moves me on the chessboard. They're not thinking like that. But they have a loving relationship with Krishna, and according to how that love is inspired, then that's how they act. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Just a reminder that Saturday and Sunday